Hey everybody, today on the commute, been looking forward to this one, Honda's Africa Twin. Should be good, right? Let's do it. So, new for 2016, 1000cc parallel twin, 270 crank, 21-inch front wheel. What else we got? Switchable traction control, by-wire throttle. Got that Dakar styling. This big shelfy thing. I think it looks cool. I dig the color scheme too. The red, white, and black. Sitting proud on its center stand. Well, let's go. First things first, on the Africa Twin, that engine, that big old parallel twin, I guess it's not that big really, lots of 1200cc engines in the category, but the 270 crank sounds pretty cool. I like the way it sounds, very en vogue, that 270 crank, a la Thruxton, FZ07, Tenere, what else, lots of other stuff. And doesn't make as much power as some of the competitors do. And when I talk about the competitors, I'm talking about R1200 GS, I'm talking about KTM 1190, talking about Yamaha Super Tenere, Triumph Explorer, and then also, speaking of Triumph, there's the Tiger 800 and there's the BMW F800 GS, which is much more the price point that the Africa Twin's working with. This thing's 13 grand. So on the spec sheet, it compares much more closely to an F800 GS or a Tiger 800. But because it's Honda's flagship and because it's a good bike, it's bound to get compared to the R1200 GS and the KTM 1190. But just keep in mind, when you're comparing the Africa Twin to an 1190 or an R12 GS, those bikes make 100 and some horsepower. That R12 GS made like 112, 115 horsepower on a dyno, and the KTM 1190 130 or something, I don't know, whatever, a lot, plenty, more than you need. The Africa Twin dynoed 82, so when it comes to being a sport tourer, the engine is not as brawny. It doesn't feel like as much of a hot rod. The KTM 1190 and the R12 GS are pretty fast. I mean, they're fun as sport touring bikes. This bike's not quite as peppy. Enough power to loft the front wheel in first gear though. It's got plenty of power, frankly. And this engine, one of my favorite things about this engine is that it feels a lot peppier. It feels a lot more high performance than Honda's other twins. Granted, it would be difficult to feel less high performance than, say, an NC700 or a CB500. Those are very, very docile engines. So, you know, not a lot of competition for excitement in the Honda parallel twin lineup. But even still, this engine is good. Feels good, sounds good, good fueling, nice and smooth. Since we're at a red light, we can talk about brakes, which are good, not great. That's about all I have to say about that. They work well, but they're not like interesting in any way. They certainly don't compare to BMW brakes. Man, those R1200 GS brakes, holy moly, so good. Since we caught a yellow light, talk real quick about this meter. New Dashima Who's It, pretty cool. Got a little trigger here on the left grip to adjust traction control. You can see it adjusting there, 3, 2, 1. If you hold it, a little light comes on, it turns off. It's pretty good. And it's got a nifty ABS feature right here, where if you push it and hold it, then rear ABS turns off. So you can lock the rear, but the front still has ABS. which is a nice feature for riding off-road. And while we're on the subject of riding off-road, at the magazine we did a big old test with the Africa Twin and the F800 GS and the Tiger 800, and we spent a couple days romping around the wilderness on this and the other two bikes. So I did ride it off-road quite a bit, and I also rode the DCT model with the dual clutch transmission, which is pretty cool if that's your thing. So point being, I might mention riding this bike off-road, and I know I'm not riding it off-road right now, but I did. I promise I did. And it's just about as good a bike off-road as on-road, which is to say, pretty damn good. I mean, riding the Africa Twin in an environment like this, commuting to work, it's pretty much flawless. I mean, it doesn't do anything wrong. The only thing that you can say about it that's bad, I guess, is that the seat's kind of tall, but I mean, it's not even that tall. It's 33 inches or something, 33 and a half inches, I think. And aside from a kind of tall seat height, it just absolutely does everything that you ask of it. It's smooth, it's comfortable, seat's nice, it feels small. I mean, it's good. It's got a rubber band on the mirror for some reason. I don't know why that is. It's near the throttle, so that's probably the power band, right? Yeah, we'll leave that. Don't want to mess with the power band. This guy likes it. Gave me a thumbs up, right on. And that guy doesn't piss around either. He's got fucking driving gloves on. That's legit. Driving gloves in a Camry. That's serious. Anyway, where was I? I don't remember. But yeah, comfort. Africa Twin is comfy. At least for someone 6'2". That's what I can tell you. One thing I'm a little surprised by is the fact that there's no adjustable windshield. I'm sure at some point I will tell you that it's comfortable on the freeway, and it is, but I'm a little surprised that it doesn't have adjustable windscreen. That's pretty common in the adventure bike class these days. But the good news is that it's a pretty simple piece that just bolts to this little bracket, and I'm sure that the aftermarket is going to be overflowing with options for this bike. Probably already is. Actually, what I can say about the wind protection right now is that I've got my chin vent open on my helmet, and I can't get any airflow on my face piece because there's no air hitting it. So at 6'2", stock windscreen, I'm not getting any airflow on my face. That's pretty comprehensive wind protection. Now that I'm on the open road, going freeway speeds, wind protection's still really good, real good. Wind just hit me in like the top of the helmet, but it's a little loud. I'd probably experiment with other windscreens if I had this bike, but stock, it's damn good. A lot of stuff I like about the Africa Twin too is just it has some of that Honda quality that I really I like. It just has a nice build quality to it. The switches are nice. The bracket that holds the windshield has nice welds on it. It's just, everything is nice. The mirrors are smooth and sleek. They don't buzz on the highway. It's a nicely built motorcycle. It just feels high quality, which says a lot considering it's not as expensive as most of the bikes it competes against. You could get a base Triumph Tiger 800 for less than this, but I wouldn't want that instead of this. One thing the Africa Twin does, it feels pretty good in the corners, but it does this weird thing when you lean it past a certain point, it sort of like falls into the corner. It's weird. It's like you have to kind of give the bars some input, and then you get to a certain lean angle and it kind of all of a sudden it goes really neutral. It almost wants to fall down and you kind of have to pick it back up. It's a little strange, but It's not anything you couldn't get used to. Yeah, it's got kind of a weird feeling leaned over. I thought it was the knobbies. That strange sensation when leaned over. I thought it was the knobbies that I used. When I rode it before, I was on knobbies because we rode in the dirt, and I thought maybe it was just the tires, but definitely the chassis has a little funky feel to it. I like this bike. I like it a lot. It doesn't have the same kind of exotic feel or presence or power or crazy electronic amenities as some of the European stuff, you know? It really doesn't. It has a different feel. But it's a totally viable alternative to those bikes, completely. I mean, it's getting this instead of an $18,000 European ADV is not a bad choice. You just won't get some things. But then again, maybe you don't want those things. I kind of like that it doesn't have different throttle modes. Honda just figured out the fueling. They did it right. And they said that's how the bike is fueled. I kind of like that. I mean, those electronic features are nice, but if that's not your thing, then who needs it? I borrowed this bike from Dirt Rider, and I rode it for a couple days. So I'm gonna put gas in it for him. Hell yeah, I want a receipt. Give me that. And we're away. I gotta say, maybe one of the biggest surprises for me is the fact that you can turn off traction control and that you can do it on the fly. That's not something I ever thought I would see from Honda. But good for them. That's what the people want, Honda. I think by now you probably understand that I like this bike, but more than anything, I'm just glad to see it from Honda. I'm glad to see that they created a bike that's worthy of the adventure class, the adventure touring category. ADV bikes, this is competitive place to be, and they create a bike that's cool. It looks awesome. It sounds good. And when you ride it in the dirt, it works really well. It works well on the street. It works well in the dirt. It's an awesome way to spend $13,000 on a motorcycle. Big thumbs up to the Africa Twin. See you guys next time.